On a Monday morning, May 16, 1921, the city of Alexandria, Egypt stood still as the Court of Assizes delivered a verdict that would echo through Egyptian history for generations. The gavel fell with a chilling finality, death by hanging for a notorious gang whose name has since become synonymous with terror and infamy, Raya and Sakina. Alongside the two sisters, their husbands, Hasabala Said and Muhammad Abdel Al, as well as Arabi Hassan and Abdel Razek Youssef, were all sentenced for the brutal murders of women and the theft of their gold jewelry. The case, a morbid tapestry woven from the disappearances of women, grisly discoveries, and confessions, would forever etch the names of Raya and Sakina in the national consciousness. It is difficult to overstate the climate of fear that gripped Egypt in those years. The First World War had left the country battered. Poverty was rampant, unemployment high, and desperation lingered in the alleyways of cities like Alexandria. Against this backdrop, women began to vanish. Some papers reported 17 bodies, others 19, but the true toll was hidden beneath layers of suspicion and fear. The press, including the esteemed Al-Ahram and Al-Lataif al-Musawwara, struggled to keep up with the mounting body count, unable to pin down the exact number as more remains surfaced in shallow graves. The story itself began, at least in the public's eye, on November 15, 1920, when Al-Lataif al-Musawwara published a sensational report about another killer, Mahmoud Alam, the butcher of Tanta. It was through the vigilance of a woman named Sama Mahmoud, who regularly loaned her gold jewelry to other local women, that Alam was brought to justice. One day, when a young woman named Zakia failed to return the jewelry, Sama grew suspicious, especially after seeing Zakia last in the company of Alam. The police were tipped off, and their investigation led to the exposure of a shocking series of killings. Alam had lured women to his home, murdered them, and disposed of their bodies in nearby canals. But even as Egypt reeled from the revelations about Alam, within days, a similar horror unfolded in Alexandria. On November 19, 1920, reports of missing women emerged again, this time centered around the working-class neighborhoods of Carmuz and Laban. The similarities between the two cases created confusion and speculation. Was it the work of one killer, or were there copycats at large? The public's anxiety grew, and authorities were under immense pressure to solve the mystery. The investigation into the Alexandria disappearances was spearheaded by Mohammed Ibrahim Pasha, the public prosecutor, who dispatched one of his most capable deputies, Mahmoud Fahmi, to oversee the inquiry. Early suspicions centered on a cluster of houses rented by two sisters, Raya and Sakina Ali Hammam. The police had already begun to suspect the existence of a criminal gang specializing in luring women to their deaths for financial gain. The breakthrough came, as so often happens, by chance. A plumber named Sheikh Abdelsalam El Gamal was hired to repair the plumbing in one of the houses. Wanting to save money, he enlisted his nephew, Ahmed Morsi Abdo, to help with the digging. The young man, nearly blind, was surprised by how easily the flooring came up. As he dug deeper, he struck something hard, and a foul stench filled the air. At first, Ahmed dismissed it as a burst sewage pipe, but curiosity got the better of him. He reached into the hole and, to his horror, found what felt like a human arm. Uncertain, he called his friend Hamido inside, who, upon seeing the grisly discovery, fled in terror. Ahmed ran to the local police station, and within minutes, a young lieutenant accompanied him back to the house, located just 50 meters from the police station. This was the beginning of a grisly unraveling. As investigators dug, they unearthed body after body, 11 in total from just one property. The remains were decomposed, many stripped of clothing and jewelry. It was clear that these were the victims of a systematic and ruthless operation. The police quickly pieced together the pattern. Raya and Sakina, along with their husbands and accomplices, had developed a method for luring women into their homes. The women, usually draped in gold jewelry and coming from the bustling market of Zankat al-Sitat, were offered alcohol, strong enough to cloud their senses and remove their ability to resist. Then, each member of the gang played a role. One would seize the victim's legs, another her arms, a third would hold her head, and a fourth would smother her with a damp cloth until she stopped breathing. The jewelry was stripped, the bodies buried beneath the very floors where the murders took place, and the gold sold to unscrupulous jewelers who helped launder the proceeds. The investigation expanded rapidly. The authorities found more bodies in 8 different homes across the districts of Laban and Bab Sedra in Carmous, most rented or frequented by the sisters and their network. By the time the police finished digging, 12 complete skeletons had been uncovered. In other locations, only fragments of bone remained, at first believed to be animal bones, but later confirmed to be human. The clothes found with the bodies became a key piece of evidence. The prosecution sent these garments to the hospital for cleaning and identification. The next morning, relatives of the missing women gathered at the police station, sifting through the clothes, and in heartbreaking scenes, recognized the belongings of their loved ones. A scarf here, a dress there, each item a silent witness to the horror that had unfolded. Among the identified victims were names that would haunt families for years. Khadra bint Muhammad el-Lami, Nazla Abu el-Layl, Aziza, Nabaweya bint Goma, Zanuba bint Ali Ahmed, Salima bint Ibrahim, Nabaweya bint Ali, Fatma bint Mohammed Abdul Rabbo, Zanuba bint Mohammed Musa, Fatma, Anisa bint Mohammed Radwan, Amina, Khadija, Hanim, Hegiza, and Ferdusu bint Fadlallah. Of the 16 bodies, only 14 were fully intact. The others were mere fragments, making identification all but impossible. A critical witness in the case was Madame Syed, wife of Ahmed el-Samin, who had rented rooms in one of the properties. She testified that she had heard strange noises, including women's screams, coming from the rooms rented by Sakina. She recounted how, on one occasion, she confronted Sakina about the blood she saw, only to be told it was nothing more than menstrual blood, a lie later exposed by the mounting evidence. The investigation revealed that Raya and Sakina had been operating for over a year, their crimes masked by a combination of fear, complicity, and luck. They had initially tried to avoid murder, according to Sakina's later confession, hoping to simply rob their victims. But when one target, Hammam, fought back fiercely, they resorted to killing to silence her and avoid exposure. The list of accused eventually swelled to 10, including the sisters, their husbands, and several accomplices. Some were charged with direct involvement in the murders, others with aiding and abetting or disposing of stolen goods. The case was so sensational, so unprecedented in its scope and brutality, that it dominated headlines and public discourse for months. As the trial approached, the government took extraordinary security measures. The courthouse was encircled with wooden barricades, and only those with special tickets were allowed to enter. Relatives of the victims crowded the streets, desperate for justice.